we begin at a somewhat difficult spot. If we scroll back a little, prior to the quotations from the three principal aspects of the path and Norsang Gyatso and I believe the seventh Dalai Lama, yes. Just prior to that, it says, such dawning, we're all familiar with this, such dawning is for persons who have ascertained the pure view and not forgotten it. Not for others. If you've ascertained the pure view and forgotten it, it's not, this isn't for you. You know, this means this mutual reinforcement of realization of emptiness and realization of dependent arising occurs only if you have ascertained the pure view of emptiness and not forgotten it. So if you have ascertained it and forgotten it, it's not for you. If you haven't ascertained the pure view of emptiness, you haven't even reached the border. Now, it's even said, and even, I think maybe the word here should be also. Even doesn't mean there's something wrong with this. Yeah, I think we have to take a change even as also, because he agrees with this. It's also said, analysis of the view is complete. And then, this is before we get into trouble here. In dependence upon these eloquent elucidations, and then we get the three elucidations from Tsongkhapa, from the three principal aspects of the path, and then from Norsang Gyatso, from well, the note doesn't tell us, and then from the great seventh monarch of victors, the contemporaneous Dalai Lama Gyaltsang Gyatso. So then, in dependence upon these, let me scroll back a little. In dependence upon these eloquent elucidations, and then he has an imperative. Now this is where I get into some trouble, or as far as giving a commentary, which I feel I should be able to, but am not able. He says, find ascertainment, find ascertainment. Okay, it depends on those. And it's, so that's, you know, that's where we should look to find the basis for what he says after find ascertainment with regard to how to posit the two dependent arising and emptiness. Well, that for sure, there's a lot to be said there. And I'm just passing over those because we've seen them before. As method and arisen from method, or means and arisen from means. And I went back to an earlier translation. I put this in as a choice here on a single substratum, which would, you know, I should be able to give a commentary here. He doesn't elucidate. This is new terminology for Kön-chog-jig-me-wang-po. I mean, new in this poem. But he says no more than this. On, or in terms of a single basis, a single substratum. Usually a single substratum would be like, with respect to a single thing, like a watch. And usually this would mean in terms of a single thing. So usually one way of talking about this is the conventional are the preceders and assisters of a rational consciousness. This is the context in which Jang-kya brings it up in his massive text on tenets. And I've made quite a bit of progress on the autonomy school, by the way, filling it out, big task. I thought to send along what I've done. So, you need a whole lot of teaching and so forth, a whole lot of words, a whole lot of discussion, and those are all conventionalities if you're going to realize the ultimate with a rational consciousness, a reasoning consciousness. So to produce a reasoning consciousness, you need a whole lot of conventional stuff. Is this what Kön-chog-jig-me-wang-po, and by extension Jang-kya are talking about? And so this stuff would be the method, and arisen from method would be the wisdom realizing emptiness. And are you going to, in one situation, call the one method and the other one arisen from method, and then turn it around and call the wisdom, mother, method, and the conventional, what's arisen from method? Do you follow? Switch them around. Are you going to turn that around? Are you going to switch them around? Not just take it the usual way. These are cause and effect, method and what's arisen from method. And remember that Tsongkhapa in the three principal aspects of the path uses the vocabulary of cause and effect. So I'm not being stupidly innovative when I, would suggest that mother and father, mama and papa, then would have to be as method and as papa, method, mother, effect. You'd have to turn them around also. I'm just talking off the bottom of my feet rather than top of my head. But in the context that Jang-kya of his commentary, so I got out this morning the whole section of elaboration, And it was so long in Jang-kya's great text that I didn't get through it all. So I guess I'll have to wait for the time when I actually translate his whole commentary to see if eventually he gets out of the what might be called the less profound to the more profound. So, as I said, it gets to be a bit more problematic for me to give a commentary. And then he finishes this section by saying, the statement by some, in other words, some fools, that when the view is found, when the view is found, that means just when you realize emptiness, the analysis of the view is necessarily complete. That's juvenile. No. Mere realization of emptiness with valid cognition is not sufficient. There's a great deal of development. And when one follows, when His Holiness the Dalai Lama talks about this topic over the years, he's making more and more progress on this topic. And he says, he announces, I at a lecture, a few years ago, I read a line from Buddhapalita, and wow, I made a breakthrough. When I got to Dharamsala a few years ago, one of the geishas called Damdul, not the short guy, but the fellow who's the head of Tibet House in New Delhi, told me, make sure to ask His Holiness what he recently put together. And of course I recorded what he said, and I put it into, that's not just a few years ago, but in How to See Yourself as You Really Are. And when I asked him, he said, the equivalent of, but it wasn't that, he just immediately, that was all expressed by just turned him right on, I would say. But it's much more subtle than that. He immediately launched. Appears to be random guesswork, lacking understanding of this essential. So, as I remember, it was a line from Buddhapalita. And there was also some criticism of Kön-chog-jig-me-wang-po, which I was very surprised to hear. So anyway, then also in the very next section, there's the translation of phenomenon, where I put in parenthesis the Tibetan Chögyam. The translation as phenomenon is inadequate. It's interesting. It's helpful. It's one way of looking at it, but not adequate. So, we're running into some inadequacy. Some of my inadequacy, here it is, inadequacy as translator. So, aged Papa, in the line, by searching for aged Papa, the non-finding is the finding itself of aged mama. Now, we've talked about this several times. By searching for the object, for the dependent arising, which here, even if emptiness is a dependent arising, we're using the term here. He's using the term, Jang-kya is using the term dependent arising for the object by searching for this nice watch that my students gave me. Oh my gosh. Was it at my retirement or at my 60th? Who knows? And on the back is carved Rang Sha Rang Tro, itself appearing and itself releasing. Itself appearing. This is your meditation has gotten so developed, the Nyingma saying, within the great completeness. Your obstacles, your thoughts, your conceptions are dawning and they're dissolving of themselves. Nothing, you don't need to apply any antidotes. Instead of being carried off by you don't get involved with these various things that are appearing. They're just self-disappearing. So in Tibetan, Rang means all of these interrupters. Rang itself. Shar means dawning. Shar goes with like the sun dawning. So your conceptions dawning. Rang itself dawning. Rang again itself true releasing. Itself dawning, itself releasing. Be kind of nice to. It's quintessential instruction. Let itself disappear. Don't get involved with it. Let it dawn, let it disappear. Don't get involved with it. And I might teasingly say good luck. But also I would mean that. You can do it. You can do it. I would say it both to tease and to encourage. That, tease would mean you don't have any hope of succeeding. Encourage means I know you can succeed. Tease and encourage at the same time. That means sometimes you fail, sometimes you succeed. And when you succeed, you'll really know what it means. Rang Shar, Rang Tro. And so we did some Nyingma in class at Virginia, reading some of Longchenpa. And so they knew to put this on the back of my watch. And sometimes, it's corny to give, must have been at retirement. Retirement. When somebody's, you give to the old person a watch, it can be corny. But actually, when the person wears the watch, you think of the person who gave it to you. And if they put something meaningful on the back of the watch, as we say in New England, on the back of the watch. Then Rang-sha, Rang-tru. Oh yeah. Rang-sha itself dawning. Dawning, you see. Dawning. Like the sun dawning. That's why doing literal translations are so helpful. Itself and releasing itself. Itself dawning, itself releasing. Okay, take something like this and, I got distracted, okay. And using it as the basis and then reflecting on its emptiness. And then emptiness, okay, by searching for the object, imputed object, by the 7 ways, the non-finding it is itself the finding. Finding, the second finding, is realizing emptiness. Second finding means realizing of aged mama. And then aged mama is identified as the emptiness of inherent existence. This indicates the way the noumenon, dharmata, chönyi, is found from the phenomenon. That's not a bad translation, but it's a twisted translation because the actual word in Tibetan is a different word. It's not just chö. Chö in where I translate as phenomena, and I translate chönyi, dharmata, as phenomena, noumenon. Phenomenon, noumenon. That's fine. So I'm pretending that the word is chö and chönyi, dharma and dharmata. But actually, we'll get into a complexity here. Could take the rest of the hour if the machine's out on the road, on the street it's called here. The actual word is not just chö, it's chö-jen. That which has the chö. Now, chö doesn't even mean phenomenon. It means that which has the attribute. And I'm giving this information. That having the attribute. That have what attribute? That having the attribute of emptiness. That which has the attribute of emptiness. And that, in fact, is the phenomenon. The phenomenon has the attribute of emptiness. Now, when we debate, we have a subject and a predicate. If we speak in English, we have a subject. And the word for subject is this Tibetan word, chö-jen. And in Sanskrit, dharmin, not dharma, but dharmin. And that means that which has the attribute, that which has the predicate. The predicate here is emptiness. So often in texts, they use this word that's thorny word that's hard to translate. That which has the attribute. What attribute? The attribute of emptiness. So this watch has the attribute of emptiness. So it's called the Kön-chog-jig-me-wang-po. So in one way, we think about emptiness as swallowing up everything. It's the emptiness of everything. And indeed, in one way, it does swallow up everything. It's sort of like Brahman, because when you directly realize emptiness, that's all you see. It's the emptiness of everything. You can't see anything, except unless you're a Buddha. When you directly realize emptiness, that's all you see. And so, we get the sense that it swallows up everything. But really, it's just a fault of our own mind that we can't see anything else. So that's all you see. And in fact, we need to do that. We need to just get into this state of just seeing emptiness directly. But it's a little bit weird that to think that it's just a fault of our own minds, that when we directly see emptiness, we can't see anything else. And when you think of it this way, you sort of think, well, I better stop seeing emptiness. No, you have to see emptiness directly in order to take the medicine to overcome the obstructions. That's how you take the medicine. You don't put a whole lot of other things, although this is almost a bad example. You don't put a whole lot of other things in with the medicine to blot out the taste of the medicine, although there are a whole lot of medicines out there in which they put sugar and so one has to so it's a good example in my case. One has to take the medicine in order to get over the afflictive obstructions and it's in order to get over the obstructions to even the afflictive obstructions, there are other practices that enhance it, but they aren't ones that dull it down, they enhance it in a preliminary way. As Jang Shiva says, they are preceders. They feed into it. I don't know how far we can extend this example. At what point the examples don't work. And as one proceeds over the Bodhisattva grounds, the practices done outside of meditation enhance the wisdom directly realizing emptiness. So that one and the wisdom directly realizing emptiness is known as the ground, the earth. Earth, same word. These are earths, grounds. People often translators often use stages. Well, you can, stage is a platform. But the word is, in Sanskrit also, is bhumi. In Tibetan it is sa. And these are grounds. Why? because things grow from the ground, and so the bodhisattva qualities grow from the ground. And one has to take this medicine. So sometimes people want to not stay with this realization and immediately, well, I've got to get out into dependent arising. No, stay with the realization. Stay in the realization. Take the medicine. So even with all of our study about the compatibility of dependent arising and emptiness, one might think I've got to get out of this seemingly nihilistic voidness, which is the absence of inherent existence, and immediately jump out of it somehow. No! Take the medicine. And of course, as Tendal Haramba said, it still is, and as His Holiness said, and it's so famous within Gelugpa, within the Gelugpa practitioner group, you have to take the medicine. It is indeed like a wild horse. You're drawn into nihilism. You're drawn into, taking it too far, as if there isn't. You can't posit dependent arising. Like riding a wild horse, as Tendal Haramba says. So, of course, I guess the Mongolian would talk about what it's like to ride a wild horse, right? You get thrown off the wild horse. And as His Holiness, I'll remind you, said, when I was translating for somebody, he was in an armchair, and his hand went off the arm, and then back on the arm and over off the other side, and then back on the armchair and off this side, and off that side, and off this side. Well, if it's like risky, not risque, risky, and not Ruski. Risky. You do the risky. And as who is it, Natalie? Was it the second or fourth Panchen Lama's commentary? The fourth that Geshe Wangyal taught us, and then we ended up with 3 books. Geshe Wangyal's himself, and Bob Thurman's, and Geshe Seba, and my translation of that practice book of the 4th Panchen Lama's commentary. And in there it talks a lot about the in Tibetan Dongsang vacuity, remaining in this vacuity. It's describing the psychological experience of the vacuity, which is the mere absence of inherent existence. Yes. Okay. This so revealing, yes, His Holiness sitting across from me in his office and talking about when a log splits open, it reveals, but I have another word. It's not confessing, it's showing, it's indicating, it's revealing what's inside. when one confesses, but one's revealing what's inside. Confess isn't the best word, but reveal's okay. Showing what's inside, indicating what's inside, and I have another word that's even better.
Is it divulge?
What? Divulge is good. It's another word.
Is it lay bare?
Lay bare.
Lay bare.
Lay bare is good. We're getting a lot of good words. A lot of good words.
Disclose.
Disclose, yes. I think that was my word. And I don't know is my word disclose is any better than, I kept thinking I've got a better word than what you've come up with. And I think all of these are equally good. Now that you've come up with my word, it discloses? No, I don't think that's my word. Okay, when I find my word, I'll tell you. I'm claiming it's better, but all of these are equally good. I think when I find mine, I'll have to disclose that it's equally good, and maybe not as good. They're all, like confess. That's not as good as these, right? Because His Holiness's example is very good. When a log itself splits open, you see, it reveals, it shows, it divulges, it just
Does it expose?
it exposes. These are all
Just
good.
the thesaurus and
Yeah, good. No, cool.
not too many more.
I do that a lot. It's great to have these thesauruses readily available. And this,
Unveil, uncover,
yeah, it uncovers it.
nothing else there.
What else?
There's not much else there.
Yeah. I'm claiming I've got an even better one. Wow. maybe it's going to be disclosed as I kind of felt that was a little pathetic. Disclose. Yeah, because it discloses a little bit like confess. Somebody should make a list of those we mentioned and send it to them. Well, they're in the transcript. That's the value of the transcript. Transcript is so valuable. So this word, that having the attribute, you see, diminishes this sense. These things all have emptiness becomes sort of pathetically, becomes just an attribute of everything that's around us. It's just a silly old attribute, of everything that's around us. Some kind of pathetic, whining attribute of everything that's around us. And then you realize everything is the attribute of emptiness. It's like, wow. It's just like all these insights that we're having, emptiness is all around us. This magnificent quality. It's just a quality of everything around us. And we're missing it. I'm missing it. And it's not pathetic. It's not whining. It's the magnificent aura that is around us. And it's not minor. It's major. And the major is being missed because I'm so pathetic that I take whatever, this great watch. When they gave it to me, I thought, well, that's not great. It's just got a metal, you know, some cheap, you know, it's got gold. It's actually it's dual gold. It's it had a strap that gave out, so I put a metal, you know, regular metal chain on it, whatever it's called. That Geshe Wangyal had given me. Somebody had given it to him. I put this on it. But I thought, well, that's just a regular metal with a little bit of gold on the front, until I realized it was dual gold. You know, here's me greedily thinking, and then I valued it all the more because it was dual gold. So you see that it was just an attribute of things, you know, meant that I was taking the things around me to be more important than any attribute. Whereas this has a fantastic attribute. How pathetic. This indicates the way the noumenon is found from the phenomena. And then from the mama's lap, or expanse. The expanse, you know, I take Jang-kya as liberally, I mean, expanse is a big word from the third turning of the wheel of Dharma, but of course it's also there in the second wheel. The Cherokee Ying in Tibetan, the expanse of attributes. In the Dharma Dhatu is called a very famous quote that from Ngom Belden, that from his annotations to Giant Sheba's Great Exposition of Tenets, which led to my translation of Dharma Dhatu, is element of attributes. Element means cause. Element of attributes. Because when the element is emptiness. When you pay attention to emptiness, you see it's a cause, like a cause. When you pay attention, when you meditate on emptiness, the attributes of Buddhahood are produced. The meditation is the cause. But when emptiness is like a cause, like a cause. So you see, mama, emptiness, is like a cause. So expanse, her lap, is the expanse or the element. This is why Tsongkhapa uses cause and effect. Her lap becomes like the cause. Cause and effect. Mama's lap, or expanse, of the emptiness of inherent existence. From her lap, aged Papa, the phenomena itself that's the basis of emptiness, comes to be found. Wow. This indicates the way the phenomenon is found from the dharmata, the noumenon. Then, thus, in dependence upon the two, aged papa, dependent arising, and aged mama, dawning as mutually non-contradictory. I mean, this is packing too much in single sentences, but that's the point. I, a small child, am protected from the two extremes of permanence and annihilation. I mean, wow, wow, wow. Okay. And now in the next, we will get to what the abbot was asking about what elder brother means. And that's for next week.
Jeffrey, do you have any knowledge about this, just like a terminology question for, it seems that this term noumenon or chunyi is often in English translations left as the Sanskrit dharmata, but the chichen, the dharman, is usually rendered into some English like subject, or as you're doing phenomenon, something like that. Do you know why one is left in the Sanskrit, whereas the chichen is not just left as dharman? Have you heard a reasoning for that?
Well, the reason for leaving it as dharman would be that it's too hard to translate. And dharmata also is, in one way, too hard to translate. But it leaves it in mystery. And I want to take dharmata out of mystery and thus warp the meaning of noumenon. Noumenon basically, or mostly in English, is the thing in itself, coming out supposedly of Kant. And I'm not going to leave Kant to be the boss of that word. I'm relying on one dictionary that now has disappeared, that took noumenon as reality. It was online, and I forget the name of the dictionary. It's old age that's causing me not to remember it. And I thought, oh, I finally found a dictionary in English. When it was a famous name dictionary. But I mean, it's not one out of England or, the famous English dictionary. And I'm going to use it my way. I'm going to go along with, it's in somebody's dictionary. And I'm going to use it my way and put my meaning on it. And if I could find, subject predicate, that which possesses the predicate, but subject having too many meanings. And I want something that which has the predicate owner, but it's too awkward. And phenomenon doesn't have the meaning, So I decided to put churchen, in parenthesis, churchen, that having the attribute of the noumenon, emptiness, at least put it somewhere and then talk about it. And disclose my initial prejudice, weak-minded prejudice and tell the story of my own coming to appreciate the meaning of Dharma and Chögyam, and hoping for one of you to come up, kind of hopelessly, hoping that somebody, that kind of hopelessly, where somebody would come up with the predicate holder, the predicated, without messing it up, because phenomenon does say something within phenomenon noumenon.